As he glanced at the pub's entrance, he saw a face at one of the upper windows of the pub peering down at him, but it pulled back behind a curtain. Odd. For a second he was concerned, but the face didn't reappear. Probably just a guest in one of the bedrooms watching the sunset. And what a sunset! A real colour show going on in the sky tonight. He reached into his pocket and took out his cigarettes, opened the pack, tapped one out, lit it, popping a little smoke ring out of habit as he watched it curl in the air in the last of the rosy sunlight. So much for giving up. Second pack today. Shame he didn't have a photographer to catch this bucolic moment. Sure was a picturesque setting. He'd have to come back here when he got a book deal, stage the whole thing again for the camera. The author at the Rose in Flower seated left with John Sheeran at their first dramatic tell-all interview. First interview, yeah. That had a nice ring to it. Of course, that was thinking ahead. Need to get all the facts first. Sort the deal with Sheeran, write the story up, sell the whole juicy tale to one of the big papers in London, maybe even the Sunday Times or the Telegraph. Posh readers loved a good crime exclusive too. He drained his pint, put the empty glass down, checked his watch. If Sheeran didn't turn up in the next couple of minutes, he might as well drink the other pint. Oh, sure, then get 2 fresh ones. But then a movement caught his eye at the back of the garden where the hedge ran down to the water's edge, and he saw a figure emerge, as if they'd come from the field behind the pub, as if sneaking in. A man in a leather jacket, collar up, a wool beanie on his head. Funny, he thought. Don't recall ever seeing a gate into the pub there. But that didn't matter. The man walked quickly across the grass towards him, staying in the shadows, and then closer, and Pinder recognised the face from so many old photos. John Sheeran. In the flesh. Tom Pinder felt his heart pounding. That rush of adrenaline he so loved back in the day. That feeling you only got when a story really took off and got real. He reached into his pocket and clicked the audio recorder on. Then he took out his phone, hit record, placed it on the table, folded back the top page of the notepad, took out his pen, and readied himself for this interview that he was sure would change his life. You finished with these glasses, mate? Tom finished scribbling and looked up from his notebook. One of the young lads from behind the bar stood over the table, tray loaded with glasses and bottles. What? Said Tom, pulling his empty glass towards him. No, I'm having another. Not here, you're not, said the young barman. Called last orders 20 minutes ago. We're locking up, so if you don't mind. Tom looked around the dark garden and realised the place was almost empty. In all the excitement of the interview, he totally lost track of time, sorting his notes, writing it all up fast while it was still fresh, the pints flying by. Sheeran long gone, the garden lights off, the pub quiet. Time that he hit the road too. Can you get me a taxi? He said, shoving his notes and recorder into his shoulder bag. On a Saturday night? Said the barman. You gotta be kidding. Tom swore to himself. Should have booked a cab hours ago, he thought. He slung the bag over his shoulder and stood, then quickly grabbed the corner of the table as he swayed and nearly fell. Whoa! You all right, pal? Said the lad, putting down the tray and reaching out to steady him. Tom shrugged the hand away. Yeah, sure. Walk it off, eh? Said the barman, taking the tray again and heading back towards the pub door. Back down the river path, nice night for it. Tom watched him go and, under his breath, swore again. But then he carefully threaded his way through the empty tables, using them as navigational props when he felt his balance going as the last strings of garden lights went out, one by one. By the time he reached the little gate onto the road, the pub was in silence, dark. Didn't seem like a soul was about. He held on to the gate post, still swaying, getting his bearings. Somewhere to his right, down the lane, he saw a shadow moving. And then it stopped. Cat, dog, cow, out here in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Could be anything. He held his shoulder bag tight against his side, stepped onto the road, took a few wobbly paces onto the old bridge, and put a steadying hand on the parapet. The stone felt cold. He peered over the edge. In the light from the half-moon, he could just see the river, black and silver as it flowed beneath. Damn, A whiskey for the road would have been nice, he thought. Then he remembered there was another pub on the far bank, maybe staying open late. After all, it is Saturday night. He hurried across the bridge as best he could, but stopped halfway. As he peered into the darkness, he could see the other pub was shut too. Then he heard the sound of a car in the distance, and he turned. Behind him he saw lights approaching. It was coming fast. The bridge was narrow, and Tom pressed himself against the parapet. As the car raced past and a horn blared, Tom put out his thumb almost as a lark, hoping for a lift. But the car didn't stop, the passengers jeering, laughing and shouting at him as it passed. Tom stuck a defiant middle finger in the air as it disappeared into the distance. Oh, looked like he didn't have a choice. The walk back to Cheringham along the riverbank would easily take the best part of an hour, but hey, it wouldn't be time wasted. Already he was rolling the story in his head, shifting paragraphs, rewriting the intro, adding colour, punching up the moments, the big reveal. Oh, and what a reveal. Sheeran had told him everything, named names, given him numbers, nailed the inconsistencies in the original story all those years ago, revealed all the lies. The interview was everything Tom had dreamed it would be, and more. It would be the making of him. No, the remaking. He grinned and started to walk across the bridge, and then from nowhere felt a hand grab, digging deep into his shoulder, then spinning him round so fast he nearly fell backwards, and suddenly he was struggling with someone. No, not struggling, fighting. He glimpsed leather gloves, a black balaclava. This person was strong, or maybe, after all his pints, he was just so weak, still drunk, his legs almost collapsing beneath him as the man, or woman, who knew, grabbed at his jacket, his flailing arms. And then, as his bag strap was wrenched from his shoulder, he realised what they were after. His bag, with his phone, his recorder, his notes, his story. He tugged back on the bag with all his drunken strength, shouting and cursing, but with this other person pulling even harder. Well, for a second he saw this scene as it would appear in the documentary he planned to make, this attack, almost comical, two children fighting over a school satchel. But then the clasp on the shoulder bag broke, snapping away, and he felt himself flying backwards, the bag still clutched tight in his arms. He hit the low stone parapet of the bridge with the small of his back and just tumbled over it, now seeing the moon so clearly in the black sky. One last glimpse of his assailant above him peering down over the parapet, then just helplessly falling, until the cold, black, shocking water hit him hard. It wrapped itself around him and held him tight and dragged him below, and he felt everything, his story, his future, his resurrection, disappear into the darkness. Chapter 2. A Body in the Water. Jack woke suddenly, eyes instantly wide open, and saw Riley, his spaniel, sitting at the side of the bed, staring right at him, the early morning sunshine bright through the curtains. "Hey, what is it, boy?" Jack said, knowing that Riley's morning routine was usually to scratch at the wheelhouse door if he wanted to go out. For a moment Jack listened to the morning sounds of the old barge and the river, the gentle creaks and slap of the water, a couple of ducks quacking, the distant chug of an outboard. Nothing unusual. Then something. Voices in the distance. Hurried, concerned, some shouts. He slipped on shorts and a T-shirt, then a fleece as it was still early. Sneakers shoved on, he headed through the boat's saloon and galley up onto the deck of the Grey Goose, picking up his sunglasses on the way, Riley following eagerly. Outside, Jack looked down the riverbank along the line of boats and barges. Then he spotted a cluster of people on the back of one of the barges, and he recognized his neighbour Ray manoeuvring a rowing boat up to the barge as people shouted instructions. "Well, what we got here, Riley?" said Jack, and together they walked down the towpath to see what was up. Nobody minded nosy neighbours in the little barge community. It was just a fact of life. If you moored up here, then you couldn't expect to keep many secrets. But you could also be sure if those secrets came out, they wouldn't be shared beyond the riverbank.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.